The storm has passed, and the Mars landscape is silent again. Mark Watney slowly wakes up, realizing he's alive, but in serious trouble. A metal antenna has pierced his suit, and every breath is a struggle. With his oxygen running low, he fights to stay conscious and somehow makes his way back to the habitat. Inside, he struggles to remove the piece of debris from his abdomen. He uses medical tools to patch himself up, gritting his teeth through the pain. Alone, with no crew and no way to call Earth, Watney has to rely on his own training and determination. Once the wound is sealed, he gathers himself and begins to assess the reality of his situation. The mission log becomes his companion. Calmly, but with a hint of disbelief, he states the obvious truth. His team thought he was dead, and now he's stranded on Mars, completely alone. Mark stares at his dwindling rations, realizing they won't last until rescue. Survival means doing the impossible. He has to grow food on a planet where nothing grows. He remembers the leftover potatoes from Thanksgiving. Carefully, he cuts them into pieces, each with an eye that can sprout. The soil of Mars is barren, but Mark refuses to quit. He lines the habitat floor with collected dirt and fertilizes it using his own waste, turning lifeless dust into farmland. But soil alone isn't enough. He needs water. With no supply left, he creates it himself, burning hydrogen and oxygen in a dangerous experiment that could blow up at any moment. Slowly, he hydrates the soil, transforming barren ground into the first farmland ever made on another planet. For the first time, Mars holds life. Against all odds, green shoots begin to rise, and with them, a fragile spark of hope. At NASA headquarters, analysts study satellite images of Mars. Something strange appears. Equipment has been moved around the habitat. The pattern is impossible to ignore. Someone is alive. The shocking truth spreads through the control room. Mark Watney survived the storm. Relief and urgency collide as the team scrambles to re-establish contact. They know he has no radio, no way to call Earth. But hope sparks when they remember the Pathfinder probe, abandoned decades ago. If Mark recovers it, they can restore its systems and create a link. Against all odds, the old machine awakens. At last, crude but brilliant messages begin to pass between Earth and Mars. Numbers, letters, and rotations of a camera lens. Simple signals that bridge millions of miles. Humanity is speaking to its lost astronaut once more. Mark Watney knows rescue won't happen at his base. To get home, he must reach the Ares 4 launch site, hundreds of kilometers across Mars. He begins stripping the habitat, packing every tool, battery, and life support system he can salvage. Extra oxygen tanks, solar panels, and carefully rationed food are loaded with precision. Every detail is survival math. One mistake, and he won't make it. Alone, he looks at the endless horizon of red dust, knowing the greatest test of his life is still ahead. Days turn into weeks as he crawls across the endless red desert. He battles freezing nights, blinding dust storms, and the crushing silence of isolation. Yet mile by mile, he pushes forward. At last, after a journey across a hostile world, Watney arrives at the Ares 4 launch site. The abandoned lander stands before him like a final beacon of hope, the key to leaving Mars behind. At the Ares 4 site, Watney prepares for his final gamble. The MIV was never designed for rescue, so he strips it to the bone, ripping out panels, seats, even the nose cone. Every kilogram removed could mean survival. The result is terrifying. A skeletal rocket, fragile and exposed. Strapped inside, Watney braces himself. With a deafening roar, the engines ignite, and the craft lurches upward. The thin Martian atmosphere rattles the MAV, panels shuddering as it claws for the sky. Watney's teeth clench. One failure and it's over. High above, the Hermes crew finally picks up his signal. Relief turns to dread. His orbit is short. He won't make it. Captain Lewis calls for a risky intercept. The crew steels themselves. The real rescue hasn't even begun. The Hermes swings into action. Thrusters fire in sharp bursts, shifting angle and speed in a deadly dance of precision. Each move drains fuel, but leaving Watney behind is unthinkable. Through the viewport, they spot him at last, adrift in his gutted capsule, orbiting too low, seconds from falling back toward Mars. Captain Lewis makes the call. She straps into an EVA suit, heart pounding. With a tether line clipped to Hermes, she launches into the void. Watney floats helplessly, reaching out through the silence. Lewis stretches her arm, fingertips brushing the emptiness. Then, a final burst of thrust. Their hands collide, and she grips tight. The tether pulls them back to safety. Cheers erupt across Hermes. After endless isolation, Mark Watney is no longer alone. Against impossible odds, humanity's lost astronaut is finally going home.